My ex lied about being pregnant to keep me around, so I exposed her, took back every gift, and let everyone see who she really was. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I thought I'd finally found the woman I'd spend my life with. After years of disappointing relationships, I'd almost given up on the idea of something real. I'd focused on work, on saving money, on becoming the kind of man who could offer stability. My friends joked that I was too serious, but deep down, I just wanted someone who wouldn't make love feel like a battlefield. Then came Jenna. She was warmth, wrapped in laughter, spontaneous, charming, and effortlessly magnetic. We met through mutual friends at a dinner, and within minutes, it felt like she saw me in a way no one else ever had. She laughed at my dry humor, asked questions that felt genuine, and touched my arm when she spoke, like she already belonged in my space. From that night, we were inseparable. Late-night calls turned into long drives under city lights. She'd rest her head on my shoulder, whispering about her dreams, traveling the world, starting a family, building a home filled with love and chaos. I remember thinking how refreshing it was to meet someone who wanted the same things. I'd tell her stories about my childhood, my parents' quiet marriage, the way my dad always said, "Love isn't about grand gestures, it's about consistency." She'd smile and say, "That's exactly what I want." It didn't take long before my walls began to crumble. I stopped questioning her intentions, stopped second-guessing her words. Every little thing she did made me believe I'd finally found what I'd been searching for all along. Someone who made love feel safe. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid to fall. I let my guard down completely, convinced that this time, I'd finally found the one. At first, I'd brushed it off as love. The constant texts, the sudden calls during work hours, the way Jenna always wanted to know where I was, it felt like attention, care. But slowly, it turned into something heavier. If I didn't reply right away, she'd send messages like, "Are you ignoring me now?" Or "Who's keeping you so busy?" It started small. I'd mention grabbing a quick drink with my coworkers after a long day, and her tone would shift. "So you have time for them, but not for me," she'd snap. I'd try to explain it was just casual, just to unwind, but she'd go quiet, her eyes filling with tears. "You know I have trust issues," she'd whisper, like I'd just broken something fragile. I told myself she was just scared of losing me. Maybe if I reassured her enough, she'd relax. But reassurance became a full-time job. She began questioning every female colleague, scrolling through my tagged photos, analyzing every like or comment. Once, when I laughed at a coworker's joke during a group dinner, she didn't speak to me the rest of the night. Then came the talk about kids. "I want to start a family soon," she said one evening, lying on my chest. Her voice was soft, but her eyes searched mine like it was a test. I told her I wasn't ready, yet we hadn't even hit a year. She froze, then sat up. "So what? You don't see a future with me?" I tried to reason with her, but she turned every word into an accusation. "If you loved me, you'd want this," she cried. The guilt settled deep in my stomach, so I compromised less time with friends. More with her, fewer boundaries, more apologies. I told myself it was just a phase. But while I was trying to keep the peace, she was already planning her next move. It happened during one of our worst fights. We'd been arguing for nearly an hour about something ridiculous, like me not answering a text fast enough. I was exhausted, drained from trying to defend myself for simply existing outside her bubble. My voice finally cracked as I said, "Jenna, this isn't normal. You have to trust me." She froze, staring at me with wide eyes. Then, out of nowhere, she blurted, "I'm pregnant." The room went silent. My anger dissolved instantly. I remember my heart racing, my thoughts colliding all at once. Fear, disbelief, confusion. "You're pregnant?" I asked, almost whispering. She nodded, tears welling up, saying she hadn't wanted to tell me like this. In that moment, everything shifted. My frustration melted into responsibility. I wrapped my arms around her, promising, "We'll figure this out. I'll take care of both of you." She clung to me like she'd just won something. Within hours, her mood changed completely. The woman who had just been accusing me of not caring was now calling me her hero. The next few days felt surreal. She posted photos of us online, captioned, "My rock, my future, my baby's daddy." Friends congratulated us. She beamed when people commented hearts and baby emojis. At night, she'd rest her head on my chest and whisper, "You're going to be such a good dad." I rearranged my budget, looked up cribs and prenatal vitamins, even researched paternity leave. My fear turned into quiet excitement. Maybe this was the sign we needed to start fresh, to be a real family. But something about her timing didn't sit right. The announcement had felt like an escape hatch from accountability. Still, I pushed that thought aside. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. I didn't know it then, but that announcement would be the biggest lie I'd ever hear. The pregnancy changed everything, at least for her. Overnight, Jenna became the center of my universe, and she made sure it stayed that way. "Don't go out tonight," she'd say, voice trembling. "You know, stress isn't good for the baby." The first few times, I didn't argue. I thought she needed comfort, reassurance. But soon, it became a pattern. If I mentioned a weekend with friends, she'd frown. If I stayed late at work, she'd call crying, saying she felt abandoned. So, I started rearranging my life. I skipped social events, turned down overtime, even canceled a major work trip I'd been planning for months. I told myself it was worth it after all. She and the baby came first. I bought her comfort food, pregnancy pillows, the soft robe she said she wanted. I even started reading baby books at night, trying to understand what she might be going through. But the cracks were there, small, unsettling details I tried too hard to ignore. Every time I asked about her doctor, she brushed it off. "You wouldn't know him, it's a women's clinic," she'd say. When I offered to come to her appointments, she'd smile and promise, "Next time, okay." But next time never came. One evening, she claimed she'd had an ultrasound. I asked to see the picture, and she got defensive. "You think I'd lie about this?" she snapped, clutching her bag like I'd asked for her diary. I backed off, ashamed of doubting her. But something inside me stayed uneasy. Then one night, while grabbing my jacket from her car, I noticed a hospital envelope wedged between the seats. It had her name on it and a bold red label across the front. "Pregnancy test results negative." My hands went cold. My heart pounded in my ears. I stood there, staring at that single word. Funk felt the ground shift beneath me. I slid the envelope across the kitchen table, like it was evidence in a case. My voice was steadier than I felt. "What is this, Jenna?" I asked, folding my hands so they wouldn't shake. The apartment smelled faintly of her perfume, and the burnt toast from that morning ordinary things that suddenly felt staged. She picked at the edge of the counter, eyes darting away. For a second, she looked small-knot, the confident woman who'd manipulated my schedule and my savings. Then the flood came, tears, hands clamping over her mouth, a high, jagged sound that I'd mistake for pain if I wanted to be kind. "It's a clerical mistake," she sobbed. "They sent the wrong envelope." I went to the clinic. It was fine. Her voice flipped between pleading and theatrical. I wanted to believe her so badly that my mouth almost formed the words. "Show me," I said, calm because I was numb. "Show me the appointment card, a text, anything." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "You don't trust me?" she hissed. And then she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frames rattled. The hallway outside took in her sobs and swallowed them. 2 days of silence passed. I replayed every moment, every missed appointment, every excuse. Then my phone buzzed, a DM from one of her friends, short and clipped. She never went to any OB appointments. Jenna made the posts. She told us to back her up. The words were small on a screen, but huge in my chest. Humiliation spread hot and shameful. I felt used in a way I'd never known possible, like I'd been a prop in a performance about my own life. The anger came slow and cold, settling under my ribs. I pictured all the dinners I'd canceled, the nights I'd stayed in, the gifts I'd bought for what? If she wanted to control me, I thought, then she'd get accountability. If she wanted control, I whispered to the empty room, "I'll show her what real consequences look like." After the truth hit me, rage wasn't my first emotion, it was strategy. I knew if I confronted Jenna again, she'd twist the story until I was the villain. So, I did the one thing she'd never expect. I pretended to believe her. When she came back a few days later, puffy-eyed and apologetic, I forced a tired smile. "It's okay," I said softly. "Maybe I overreacted." She melted instantly, hugging me like nothing had happened. Inside, I was somewhere else quietly watching, documenting, waiting. I started collecting everything. screenshots of her fake doctor texts, timestamps that didn't line up, phone logs of those supposed clinic calls. Every detail went into a hidden folder. When she faked morning sickness, I'd make mental notes of what food she couldn't stomach one day but craved the next. When she claimed the doctor said no heavy lifting, I checked her fitness tracker. She logged a workout that morning. Meanwhile, Jenna became more arrogant. I overheard her on the phone with a friend laughing. "He's so wrapped around my finger. He'll never leave me now." That sentence became fuel. I realized she didn't just lie out of fear, she lied for power. Every gesture, every tear, every apology was just another move on her chessboard. At work, people congratulated me, asking about baby names and future plans. I smiled politely, nodding, while inside I was building a case one that would end her entire act. The nights grew quieter, her control loosening as I played along better than she could imagine. She thought she'd won. That I was back under her spell, but she didn't see the shift. The stillness before the storm, because I wasn't reacting anymore. I was recording, remembering, and waiting. I stopped reacting emotionally. I started planning. The truth came from where I least expected. A quiet message from a friend who'd seen too much. "Hey man," he wrote, "I think you should know Jenna was at the lake last weekend with someone else." At first, I thought it was a mistake. She'd told me she was visiting her mom, resting. But the next evening, curiosity got the better of me. When she hopped in the shower, I opened her phone hands, trembling, pulse thudding in my ears. And there it was. Messages, dozens of them, a thread with a guy named Tyler. The texts weren't vague, they were intimate. "Can't wait to see you again, babe. You make me feel alive." And then one that shattered what little faith I had left. "He's still buying it. I'll tell him after this weekend." I scrolled further photos of them at that same lake, drinks in hand, her wearing the hoodie she'd said she borrowed from her cousin. My stomach twisted. The pregnancy wasn't just manipulation, it was camouflage. A distraction to keep me close while she chased someone new when she came out of the bathroom. Wrapped in a towel, humming like nothing was wrong, I couldn't even look at her. I felt sick with disgust, anger, and the cruel irony that I'd been planning to protect her while she was already betraying me later that night. My friend confirmed Jenna had been double dating for weeks. To her friends, I was the safe one, the stable provider. Tyler was the fun one. She'd kept me tethered with fake doctor visits and fabricated hormones, ensuring I wouldn't leave before she decided who she really wanted. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just sat in the dark, staring at the glow of my phone screen. She wasn't just lying to me. She was building a lie for everyone. The days that followed felt like walking through fog. Every breath was heavy, every sound dull. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus. I'd built my life around someone who didn't just lie, she performed deceit like it was art. And I'd been the audience clapping for every act. I stopped talking to friends, skipped social events, ignored calls. I was too ashamed to explain what had really happened. How do you admit that the woman you almost built a family with faked a pregnancy while sneaking around with another guy? Every time I replayed the messages in my head, I felt smaller, weaker, like every ounce of trust I'd ever had was burned to ash. Jenna, of course, sensed my distance. And like clockwork, she flipped the script. Suddenly, I was the bad guy, the cold, unsupportive boyfriend who abandoned her during pregnancy. She posted tearful photos on social media with captions like, "Some people can't handle real responsibility." Her friends flooded the comments with hearts and sympathy. Our mutual friends who once admired our relationships started choosing sides. Then the whispers started. A coworker asked if I was doing okay in that cautious tone people use when they've heard gossip. Another joked, "Man, you're going to be a dad soon, huh?" I forced a smile, pretending not to know what they were talking about. Each interaction felt like a fresh cut. She was rewriting our story in public, painting me as the villain while bathing in attention and pity. And I couldn't even defend myself, not without sounding bitter. Not without proof I wasn't ready to reveal. One night, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by receipts, screenshots, and the deafening silence of people who used to care. My phone didn't buzz anymore. My world had shrunk to 4 walls and the echo of her lies. That was my lowest point. She was thriving in sympathy, and I was completely, utterly alone. It's strange how clarity sometimes comes from rock bottom. One evening, after days of silence, I got a message from Lorena. mutual friend of ours. She'd seen Jenna's posts and noticed something off. "She keeps changing her due date," Lauren said. "And those ultrasound pictures? They're all from Google." My heart pounded as I realized someone else finally saw it too. I wasn't crazy. We started comparing notes. Lauren screenshotted posts, dug through timestamps, and found inconsistencies I'd missed. Together, we began building something that looked a lot like justice. The plan was simple, but cruelly poetic. We'd use Jenna's own lies to expose her, piece by piece, in front of the same audience she'd manipulated. I played my part perfectly. Around Jenna, I was the loving, devoted boyfriend, again rubbing her shoulders, asking about the baby, nodding through her fake stories. Every time she bragged about me being the best dad to be, I bit my tongue, pretending to melt under her smile. Inside, I was counting the hours. Lauren helped me craft subtle, bait-fake social media posts about nursery shopping, prenatal appointments, baby names. The goal was to create contradictions Jenna couldn't resist commenting on. And she didn't. Each time she corrected or embellished the story publicly, we documented it. Her lies began folding over each other like a collapsing house of cards. Then the idea for the final act hit me. A dinner something intimate, with friends and family. I told Jenna I wanted to celebrate the baby, to show her how much she meant to me. She was glowing when she agreed, already imagining another round of sympathy and praise. She didn't know that this time she wouldn't be the one controlling the narrative. This time, she'd be sitting center stage when the curtain finally fell. The restaurant was softly lit, the kind of place where secrets felt safe. 10 of our closest friends sat around the long table, people who had believed every story Jenna ever told. She sat beside me, glowing with fake pride, her hand on my arm as she laughed and accepted compliments about the baby. I smiled too, calm and collected, my pulse steady like I'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. When the food arrived, I raised my glass. "I just want to thank everyone for being here," I began. "Tonight's special, it's not every day you get to celebrate the beginning of a new life." People clapped. Jenna beamed. Then I turned to her and said gently, "Babe, why don't you tell everyone the due date? I can never remember it right." The color drained from her face. Her fingers tightened around the glass. "Oh, a mitzvah. Soon," she stammered. A few awkward chuckles floated across the table. "You've been saying that for months," Lauren said, her tone deceptively casual. Jenna's eyes darted between faces, looking for help, for someone to rescue her. I reached into my jacket and placed the hospital envelope on the table, the same one she'd claimed was a mistake. "You mean this one?" I asked softly, "because it says negative." The room went dead silent. Forks froze midair. I took out my phone, scrolling to the screenshots of her fake doctor messages, then to the photos she'd stolen online. "Here's her doctor," I said, turning the screen so everyone could see the number saved under a fake name, "and here's the ultrasound found on Google in 2 seconds." Someone gasped. Another whispered, "Oh my God." Jenna's breathing quickened. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. Then, without a word, she grabbed her purse and bolted from the table, her heels echoing through the restaurant like gunshots. I didn't follow. I just watched the mask she'd worn for months crumble in real time. The morning after the dinner felt eerily quiet. For the first time in months, my phone wasn't buzzing with Jenna's messages, fake updates, or guilt trips. I sat on my couch, coffee in hand, replaying the look on her face when the truth unraveled. Shock, shame, disbelief. It wasn't satisfaction I felt, at least not at first. It was peace, the kind that comes after surviving a storm that nearly drowned you. I didn't reach out to her. I didn't need to. Instead, I blocked her on everything: calls, messages, social media. Then I took back what was mine. The car she'd been driving was in my name, the phone plan under my account. Even the apartment furniture she'd boasted about buying together. I had receipts for every single thing, and I used them. Within days, she was left with exactly what she'd earned. Nothing. Word spread faster than I expected. Our mutual friends, the same ones who'd believed her sob stories, started calling to apologize. They'd seen the proof, the screenshots, the envelope. The other guy, Talor, apparently dumped her on the spot once the truth reached him. Social media turned silent on her end. The once constant posts about strength and motherhood disappeared overnight. I didn't gloat publicly. That wasn't the point. But one night, I posted a single line on my profile. Truth always comes with receipts. It wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about closure. People could interpret it however they wanted. But I knew what it meant. The whispers faded, the pity looks disappeared, and my life slowly returned to its natural rhythm. I started laughing again, sleeping again, living again. I realized freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just the sound of silence after the lies finally stop echoing. I wasn't free because she lost Ty, was free because I finally walked away with my dignity intact. Months passed, and life slowly rebuilt itself around the silence Jenna left behind. The chaos she'd caused became background noise, distant, fading, almost unreal. I focused on work again, reconnected with friends who'd stuck around, and started doing small things that made me feel human. Early runs before sunrise, cooking for one without feeling lonely. Therapy sessions where I learned that forgiveness wasn't for her, was for me. Jenna tried to contact me 3 times. The first was a text. "I'm so sorry. I wasn't in a good place." The second came weeks later, a voicemail where her voice cracked mid-sentence. The last one was a long email full of promises and nostalgia, ending with, "You'll always be the one who got away." I never replied. I didn't need revenge anymore. Her life had already become a consequence. People told me she moved away not long after everything fell apart. The other guy wanted nothing to do with her. Her friends drifted off, and she eventually deleted her social media altogether. I didn't celebrate her downfall. I just accepted it as balance, finding its way back. One evening, I stood on my apartment balcony, city lights flickering below, and realized I wasn't angry anymore. The pain had turned into something else, clarity. She hadn't broken me. She'd just stripped away the parts of me that tolerated manipulation and called it love. I finally understood the lesson she'd unknowingly taught me. Real love never needs control, and trust doesn't come with conditions. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. My life wasn't defined by what she'd done, it was defined by what I'd survived. She faked a life to keep me trapped. I built a life to keep myself free, and that freedom quiet, steady, and entirely my own was the real ending I never knew I needed.